Predicting the consequences of any confrontation in today's era is sure very challenging. Similarly, none of us can anticipate how long would the Russian-Ukraine conflict last, and how is the Europe and the rest of the world going to absorb these intense shock waves. But as we see these two entering their third month of conflict, it is evident that economic turnout would definitely face a plague. Prior to this, we know that the international market is already facing a recession amid COVID-19, causing rise in food prices and inflation in all sectors. Thus, the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which is acting as a bad cherry on the top, has further dimmed the global growth outlook. If you are new on our channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and share the content with your friends. As we can see that the European economy is facing a significant setback due to its trade and financial ties with the conflicting countries. Thus, it is amplifying the demand imbalance, harming the consumer market. It is not wrong to say that Europe is facing great interruption in natural gas sales from its major energy supplier, which is Russia. It could have been controlled only if the officials and policymakers were quick and decisive. Currently, IMF is working to minimize these issues and has published 3 papers which examines how fragmented markets and slow price pass-through can intensify the impacts, and how important is the world market for liquefied natural gas in influencing the results. And lastly, how these factors are going to affect Germany, which is currently the biggest economy in Europe. According to our research, it is revealed that in some of Europe's most vulnerable nations, such as Hungary, Slovak Republic, and the Czech Republic, there is a danger of gas shortage of up to 40% and GDP decline of 6%. These outcomes can be a little secured if we secure alternate supplies and energy sources that can help us alleviate infrastructure bottlenecks, encouraging energy conservation while also safeguarding vulnerable households and extending agreements to share gas between nations. After being in conflict with the Ukraine, Russia had to cut off its major trades, and despite having a 60% decrease in its gas exports since the year 2021, the European infrastructure and the world supply have somehow managed themselves, as they are using other sources such as particularly LNG from international markets, and also total gas consumption in the first quarter was down 9% from a year earlier. We can say that Russian gas production might be cut by up to 70% in the short term, although this could be handled by using alternate energy and supply sources, and also by reducing demand due to previously high pricing. Yes, this is how some countries were able to terminate Russian imports alone, but limited import capacity and blockages may also limit the ability to redirect gas inside Europe sooner or later, which can lead to shortage of 40% in yearly consumption. The Battle of Donbass. Some analysts say that this battle can determine the outcomes of entire war, as Russia and Ukraine have entered the second phase of severe fighting and heavy drone attacks. This makes the global market have a keen eye on the whole matter. Investors are anticipating the central banks can increase interest rates more and more in order to leash increase in prices. IMF warns that this strategy can also lead to additional market sell-offs. The International Monetary Fund projects, according to their report, that the US inflation rate will reach 7.7% this year, while the inflation rate in the Eurozone will be 5.3%. This indeed is very alarming to the investors, and thus it is slowing down the global economy. This forced the investors to sell the bonds due to worries about increasing prices. In recent days, the yield on the benchmark 10-year Treasury note reached 2.94%, which is so shocking, at the same time the highest level that it ever to be recorded since 2018. The World Bank and IMF have also lowered their expectations for global growth. So, no matter what happens on the front lines over the next days and weeks, the conflict shockwaves will continue to echo all across the world. The International Monetary Fund says that the economic impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine would propagate far and wide. The World Bank cuts its projection for global growth in 2022 from 4.1% to 3.2%, nothing the strain it has had on the world economy. Both organizations stated that they had revised their estimates lower because they feared that supply shocks would worsen and that prices of commodities, of which Russia and Ukraine are significant suppliers, might rise sharply. Furthermore, IMF stated recently that Russia is a significant exporter of oil, gas, metals, and along with Ukraine, wheat and grain. These commodities prices have increased significantly due to reduced supplies, making it hard for all nations to cope the inflation. According to Jerry Sten, who is chief European economist at Goldman Sachs, the results of the situation in Ukraine are already gradually decreasing Europe's economy. According to Daniel Amanidze, head of McKinsey's Chemicals and Agriculture Practices, and Nicholas Dennis, a partner at the consulting company, the war is now posing a rising threat to our global food supply, as it overlaps with other disruptions such as supply chain strains, inflation, and the pandemic. The Ukraine-Russia zone is known as one of the world's breadbaskets and serves an important function as both an exporter of basic commodities like wheat and that one of the world's largest supplier of plant food. This stresses on how important they are in directly affecting the world market. According to Dennis, who is a director for the Center for Economics and Policy Alternatives in Washington, the Ukraine-Russia region is responsible for about 30% of world wheat exports and 65% of global sunflower exports, so even a minor supply interruption has an effect on prices. He further said that the previous supply-demand models for the global food system were mostly dependent on temperature and other resource phenomena. But today, we are in an impossible circumstance, a conflict of this magnitude in Europe, in such a vital food supply corridor as the Black Sea, notably when it comes to wheat and fertilizers. He described the instability as beginning to have a whiplash impact on the food supply chain. While Amanidze said it's difficult to predict the entire ramifications as this crisis will have clear spillover consequences on other breadbaskets including Brazil. While rising food costs might have yet another unsettling consequence, increase in the cost of food and gasoline may potentially greatly enhance the risk of societal unrest in poorer nations. How long the conflict lasts and how much destruction and disruption it creates will determine the extent of its impact on the world economy. Despite being subject to a slew of international sanctions that target crucial facets of its industry, including its financial system and the oil and gas industries, there are not any signs that Russia is going to compromise anytime soon. However, analysts claim that penalties are unlikely to stop Russian President Vladimir Putin from achieving his goals in Ukraine. The intentions are believed to entail annexing at the least the Donbas area in eastern Ukraine and building a land bridge to Crimea inside the Black Sea to support Russia's trade and military, if not going further by trying to grab the center Kyiv and topple Ukraine's pro-Western government. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and of course don't forget to subscribe so you never miss it when we upload a new video. You can drop your recommendations and comment of what you wanna see us make in the next video. On that note, thanks for watching, we'll catch you in the next one.